Welcome to another episode of WellteQ Talks. I'm WellteQ CEO Scott Montgomery, and today we're here to talk about gut health. We have Dr. Liz from Akesi Wellness, so welcome Dr. Liz.
Thank you.
We're talking about gut health, which is a new phenomenon that's coming around. We're hearing it more and more. I want to talk today a little bit more about the word culture and reculture. So we understand from the last episode that we have millions upon trillions of these microbes in our system. Now, if we're out of balance, we need to reculture that. Is that the right terminology? And can you talk a little bit about how we do that?
Certainly. So gut health is essentially around diversity. So when people talk about, unbalanced, another word you might hear is dysbiosis. Yep. It means that there's an out of balance situation. Yep. Essentially what you have then is you have the loss of diversity. So the idea around, you could use the word reculture, but it's about introducing diversity back into the bowel. So, for example, if you've taken antibiotics, yep. What happens is you get suppression of all those beneficial microbes that have been living there, and you need to actually then reintroduce those healthy sort of bacteria that you've lost from the antibiotic course. Yeah. Antibiotics are life-saving, they're absolutely necessary, but there is a consequence, yeah. And it's worth thinking about repopulating the gut microbes of your gut wall.
Okay, so culture is so key. I mean, there's some tie-ins there with HR and your gut. Interestingly, diversity and culture, getting that right is a winning formula.
Yeah.
There's going to be better parts of the world, I imagine, from a health perspective, that have better gut health than some that don't. Do you know where in the world are the best and the worst zones for gut health?
So in the ideal world, we would be living, a more rural lifestyle, be exposed to animals and the natural environment. Yep. And in that instance, you're not exposed to as many sort of modern dietary changes. So we eat a lot more processed foods with high sugar content. We've taken away some of the natural routines of life, which is being sort of in the natural environment more. We're more in built environments where we are more sedentary. So a lot of these changes have affected the way our gut microbial communities exist. Okay. If you look at geography, there's fabulous research coming out of Singapore, headed up out of National University of Singapore, Prof. Yuan. They have extensive research on the different gut microbiota profiles across Asia. Okay. So depending on your diet, and it's very much about the carbohydrate type. Yep. So you'll have different diet related to rice or noodle base, and then what type of rice, whether that's sticky rice, non-sticky rice. It gets very technical, but really it's as much as you are what you eat, but Prof. Yuan would say you are what carbohydrate you eat.
Interesting, interesting. So those on a limited carb diet we might find a little bit harder to segment perhaps.
So carbs, the big talk about carbs, some time ago, drove some of the dietary changes. Yep. With carbs, the simple way to look at it is you can divide them up three things: sugars, starches, and fiber. Okay. And this is where the fiber story comes back into play.
That's the winning ticket.
But essentially, if you can up your increase of fiber, and that's, if you think about it in a simple terms, like the roughage skin of vegetables. The most important part of fiber for beneficial bugs is a term called prebiotic fiber. Okay. It selectively feeds beneficial microbes. And so when I say prebiotic fiber, it's found in your diet. You can get it in garlic, onion, some more unusual things like chicory root and Jerusalem artichoke, which I know aren't as easy to come by. But you can also get it in a supplement form. But you just need to be mindful with prebiotic fiber. It can give you some, if you introduce it quickly in a large dose, it can give you sort of gas and bloating. Got it. So you just need to be mindful of that if you're taking a supplement.
Gradual adjustments as you go. Yeah, got it. Okay. Burning question. So there seems to be around restaurants, cafes, even just general population talk now is around gluten intolerance. Now, dying to know, does that have an application within the gut health approach? What do people mean by gluten intolerance?
Yeah, so this is a bit of a minefield debate.
Okay, be careful.
So when you talk about people having a gluten-free diet, some people might link that to, is gluten intolerance growing? I think the important focus is on, if people choose to eliminate gluten from their diet, they will have a reason for that. And it's important to understand what that reasoning is. Okay. To pick it apart a little bit, you have celiac disease, which is a diagnosed pathology of the gut wall characterized by a blood test and a biopsy. And if you're diagnosed with celiac, you are on a gluten-free diet for life.
Okay.
That's a group of people. There is another label that's been termed sort of non-celiac gluten sensitivity.
Wow,
it gets
that's
a little
mouthful.
bit technical, but
Yeah.
it's trying to encompass a group of people who feel that when they ingest gluten, they experience a set of symptoms.
Okay.
Now, the research and the debate around that is quite contentious.
Okay.
My advice would be that if you're going to go on a gluten-free diet, I would get expert advice on why you're doing that and for what symptoms.
Okay. And when we look at those symptoms that might spark the question, should I be considering gluten-free, and should I speak to someone about being gluten-free? What are those feelings or symptoms that I might notice?
Most people feel that they get some abdominal symptoms, not dissimilar to what we call irritable bowel syndrome,
Okay.
so IBS type symptoms,
Sure.
gas, bloating,
Yep.
pain. You can get more generalized systemic things, sort of, people like to say, you know, their brain fog.
Yep.
But whether you can categorically link that to
Yep.
gluten it has not been established at this point.
Okay.
So it is, what I always would say about the gluten debate, it is very contentious,
Yep.
and depending on who you speak to, you'll get slightly different arguments for and against.
Okay. Sounds
Yeah.
like the minefield is still,
Yes.
there's a lot of space in there.
Yes.
Perhaps another time. Dr. Liz, thanks for coming and sharing your thoughts
Thank
around
you.
gut health. And thanks for tuning in to another episode of WellteQ Talks.